structure to any of this.
Welcome to Oh Brother News. I'm Gabe.
And I'm James.
And we're brothers. And oh, brother, is there a shitload of news this week? So, just in the order that's in the sheet, topics we might get to, we might not get to all of them. Signal Gate Part 2. Carolyn Levitt, she ran for Congress, and her campaign is refunding excessive donations to family and businesses that didn't donate to her campaign. Seems pretty sus. There's Judge Zini going off on the Trump administration. Might read some of that. There's the White House trying to incentivize childbirth with some of the most absurd and asinine proposals. The constitutional crisis laid out by the Fourth Circuit Court on April 17th. That's a thing, actually, I want to make sure that I read because it's fire. There is Doge stealing sensitive data. Sending it off to Russia. There is the U.S. quote-unquote peace proposal put forward in Paris. It's ridiculous. There is Mike Johnson, who wants to dismantle the courts by not funding them. China, who says there are no tariff negotiations, despite Trump saying we're definitely negotiating with China and we're making progress. And then they ask him, well, who exactly are you negotiating with? And he's like, oh, don't worry about it. Maybe we'll name them later. We'll think about it. And China's like, yeah, you're full of shit. There's tariff impact updates, stuff like chain stores like Walmart and Target were a few weeks away from empty store shelves. I'd like to talk a little bit about how trade benefits both parties, why stability over there matters over here. There's Nancy Mace being a fucking lunatic. There's some shakeups in the Democratic Party, including the Young Turks launching Rebellion PAC, or I guess specifically Sengungar, which is meant to be a populist takeover of the Democratic Party. Some details on that. There's David Hogg, the DNC vice chair, out to primary out-of-touch Democrats in safe seats. Dick Durbin and some others retiring. Gavin Newsom's new podcast. Pete Buttigieg grew a beard and took the fight to the right on the Flagrant podcast on why it's important to meet people where they are. There is Elon Musk whining like a little bitch on the Tesla earnings call and his nonsensical copium. And then maybe we'll get into some updates on Ukraine aside from the bullshit of the peace negotiation. Where I just want to make sure that we get, I definitely want to read this speech eventually, but like, where do you want to start? Like, that's the only thing I want to for sure get to.
And I think let's start with Caroline Levitt, just because with every story, no matter what's going on, everybody is forced to look at that fucking woman and listen to
that 27-year-old married to a 59-year-old?
Oh, he's only 59? I thought he's a lot more than that, man. I just saw the
32-year age gap.
Well, yeah. Did you see like the, what is it, 2 or 4 carat ring she was wearing at the beach?
Yeah, he's rich.
Yeah, I know. But yeah, she's a horrible person. And I mean, her entire job is, I'm going to lie, and not only am I going to lie, but I'm going to lie in the most condescending, bitchy, rude, and attacking manner I can. So yeah, let's start with her because she's a wonderful person.
Okay, so we'll have a link to this. Luke Beasley did a piece on this story, but basically she ran for Congress, I think about a couple years before, recently. She ran for Congress recently, and she didn't win, but in that campaign, there were people who donated in excess of the limit. So, like, there's a limit for how much an individual person or an individual business can donate to a political campaign directly. So they usually donate to PACs, but those limits were exceeded by certain people. And so what you're supposed to do is you're supposed to give those people their money back. You give them a refund of the amount that they donated in excess of the maximum amount. Instead of doing that, she's giving refunds. She's taking that pile of refund money she has to give out and she's refunding it to her family members and to a business that has no address that didn't donate to her campaign. Seems like she's just directly siphoning off those funds. And obviously nothing's going to come of it because it's something that the Department of Justice would have to investigate. And as we all know, they serve at the whim of dear leader. So it's full-on lawless bullshit. I mean, I guess there was like the more minor story also about her at the Easter egg thing at the White House, where there's some interactions between her and Trump where it seems like, I don't know, the vibe was Monica Lewinsky explaining where he could hide some eggs, perhaps. You'd have to watch the video, but it's kind of obnoxious.
Yeah.
But expected, I
Everything
think.
about her is obnoxious, though.
Yeah. Okay, so we'll dig into some of your gripes. I mean, I'm sure there's, some from every day, but anything in particular?
I mean, the judges. I'm glad that they continue to pile up their wins 0 on at
Well,
the court.
they got tired of winning, so now they stopped.
He did say with Trump we would be tired of winning.
I mean, I
Maybe
think we're
just people got
tired.
tired right off the
Yeah.
bat. So, but
Only took
it doesn't
10
really matter
years.
though, because I mean, like this, it said, yes, even the Supreme Court woke their asses up at midnight to block, the further deportations under the Alien Enemies Act. Which this Supreme Court waking up at midnight to go in there and do an emergency, nationwide injunction on them enforcing that, with the deportation flights is kind of shocking because, like, the Trump administration, everybody keeps saying, oh, these left-wing radical judges that I appointed keep doing these injunctions. Circuit court judges, district judges couldn't be able to do injunctions, and the Supreme Court woke up their asses at midnight to do it.
I heard Clarence Thomas woke up and he was like, I'm not getting bribed enough for this bullshit.
Yeah, was it him and Alito? I think it was him and Alito.
Yeah.
Were the two that said, they're jumping, everybody else here is jumping the gun. There's no need to do this because they said they're not going to do it that day. They said on Friday they wouldn't do it on Friday.
We could definitely.
They didn't say they wouldn't do it 2:00 in the morning on Saturday. They just said they would not do it on Friday. And that was enough for all the Republicans for Alito and Thomas. So they said they weren't going to do it yesterday. So why are you having this petition here? They said they weren't going to do it yesterday. But the other 7 were like, yeah, fuck that. Come on now. The only thing I can say is shocking to me is that they turned the buses around and did not fly the people out early Saturday morning because they were on the way to the airport when the Supreme Court, made that stay. Surprised they didn't just fly them out of there some more. But yeah, Judge Zenas, you can talk about her going off on there. She finally said, yeah, you guys have made absolutely no attempt to follow the law. You're flagrantly, willfully, disobeying the orders, blah, blah, blah. Fourth Circuit, good ruling.
So this is
conservative judge of Reagan-appointed conservative, rarely conservative judge. By the way, the judge in the Fourth Circuit ruling, I talked about that last week too, right? The judge who ruled on that. Oh God, what was some of the other famous cases oh my God, I'm trying to remember. There was some other case that tells you he's not no left-wing nut job type person,
I don't know who the judge is in that. I don't know who wrote that one. Like, I have the petition because I'm definitely gonna read from it, but I don't know who wrote it.
The judge was Harvey Wilkinson III, and the judge, he's the one who wrote the opinion. And what was one of those other cases he ruled on? He ruled on some.
Has he always been at that court? Like,
Yeah,
is that like that whole court is always hidden?
He's been there for a while. He was appointed by Reagan. He's been there since 1984. You might want to hit pause on the recording here.
Oh, here, you could look it up while I read from this.
Yeah, you can go ahead and read that.
Okay, so Wilkinson, Circuit Court Judge, with whom King and Thacker Circuit Court Judges join upon review of the government's motion. The court denies the motion for an emergency stay pending appeal for writ of mandamus. The relief the government is requesting is both extraordinary and premature. While we fully respect the executive's robust assertion of its Article 2 powers, we shall not micromanage the efforts of a fine district judge attempting to implement the Supreme Court's recent decision. It is difficult, in some cases, to get to the very heart of the matter, but in this case, it is not hard at all. The government is asserting a right to stash away residents of this country in foreign prisons without the semblance of due process that is the foundation of our constitutional order. Further, it claims in essence that because it has rid itself of custody that there is nothing that can be done. This should be shocking not only to judges, but to the intuitive sense of liberty that Americans far removed from courthouses still hold dear. The government asserts that Abrego Garcia is a terrorist and a member of MS-13. Perhaps, but perhaps not. Regardless, he is still entitled to due process. If the government is confident in its position, it should be assured that position will prevail in proceedings to terminate the withholding of removal order, requiring that the government prove by preponderance of evidence that the alien is no longer entitled to a withholding of removal. Moreover, the government has conceded that Abrego Garcia was wrongly or mistakenly deported. Why then should it not make what was wrong right? Supreme Court's decision remains, as always, our guidepost. That decision rightly requires the lower federal courts to give quote, due regard for the deference owed to the executive branch in the conduct of foreign affairs, end quote, that would allow sensitive diplomatic negotiations to be removed from public view. It would recognize as well that the facilitation of Abrego Garcia's return leaves the executive branch with options in the execution to which the courts, in accordance with the Supreme Court's decision, should extend a genuine deference. The Supreme Court's decision does not, however, allow the government to do essentially nothing. It requires the government to facilitate Abrego Garcia's release from custody in El Salvador and to ensure that his case is handled as it would have been had he not been improperly sent to El Salvador. Facilitate is an active verb. It requires that steps be taken, as the Supreme Court has made perfectly clear. The government should be prepared to share what it can concerning the steps it has taken and the prospect of further steps. The plain and active meaning of the word cannot be diluted by its constriction, as the government would have it, to a narrow term of art. We are not bound in this context by a definition crafted by an administrative agency and contained in a mere policy directive. Thus, the government's argument that all it must do is, quote, remove any domestic barriers to Garcia's return is not well taken in light of the Supreme Court's command that the government facilitate Abrego Garcia's release from custody in El Salvador. Facilitation does not permit the admittedly erroneous deportation of an individual to one country's prisons that the withholding order forbids, and further, to do so in disregard of a court order that the government not so subtly spurns. Facilitation does not sanction the abrogation of habeas corpus through the transfer of custody to foreign detention centers in the manner attempted here. Allowing all this would facilitate foreign detention more than it would domestic return. It would reduce the rule of law to lawlessness and tarnish the very values for which Americans of diverse views and persuasions have always stood. The government is obviously frustrated and displeased with the rulings of the court. Let one thing be clear. Court rulings are not above criticism. Criticism keeps us on our toes and helps us to do a better job. Criticism need not be... All right, he's going on to this. Energy in the executive is much to be respected. It can rescue government from its lassitude and recalibrate imbalances too long left unexamined. The knowledge that executive energy is a perishable quality understandably breeds impatience with the courts. Courts are frequently attuned to caution and are often uneasy with the executive branch's breakneck pace. And the differences do not end there. The executive is inherently focused upon ends. The judiciary, much more so upon means. Ends are bestowed on the executive by electoral outcomes. Means are entrusted to all of government, but most specifically to the judiciary by the Constitution itself. The executive possesses enormous power to prosecute and to deport, but with powers comes restraint. If today the executive claims the right to deport without due process and in disregard of court orders, what assurance will there be tomorrow that it will not deport American citizens and then disclaim responsibility to bring them home? And what assurance shall there be that the executive will not train its broad discretionary powers upon its political enemies? The threat, even if not the actuality, would always be present, and the executive's obligation to take care that the laws be faithfully executed would lose its meaning. Today, both the United States and the El Salvadoran governments disclaim any authority and or responsibility to return Abrego Garcia. We are told that neither government has the power to act. The result will be to leave matters generally, and Abrego Garcia specifically, in an interminable limbo without recourse to law of any sort. The basic differences between the branches mandate a serious effort at mutual respect. The respect that courts must afford the executive must be reciprocated by the executive's respect for the courts. Too often today this has not been the case. This calls for impeachment of judges for decisions the executive disfavors, and exhortations to disregard court orders sadly illustrate. It is in this atmosphere that we are reminded of President Eisenhower's sage example. Putting his personal opinions aside, President Eisenhower honored his inescapable duty to enforce the Supreme Court's decision in Brown v. Board of Education to desegregate schools with all deliberate speed. This great man expressed his unflagging belief that the very basis of our individual rights and freedoms is a certainty that the president and executive branch of government will support and ensure the carrying out of the decisions of the federal courts. Indeed, in our late executive's own words, unless the president did so, anarchy would result. Now the branches come too close to grinding irrevocably against one another in a conflict that promises to diminish both. This is a losing proposition all around. The judiciary will lose much from the constant intimations of its illegitimacy, to which by dint of custom and detachment we can only sparingly reply. The executive will lose much from public perception of its lawlessness and all of its attendant contagions. The executive may succeed for a time in weakening the courts, but over time history will script the tragic gap between what was and all that might have been, and law and time will sign its epitaph. It is, as we have noted, all too possible to see in this case an incipient crisis, but it may present an opportunity as well. We yet cling to the hope that it is not naive to believe our good brethren in the executive branch perceive the rule of law as vital to the American ethos. This case presents their unique chance to vindicate that value and to summon the best that is within us while there is still time. In sum, and for the reasons foregoing, we deny the motion for the stay pending appeal and the writ of mandamus in this case. It is so ordered. Like, the fucking poetry of that is just chef's kiss.
And I found it. There's a couple cases he's ruled on. I've read that opinion a couple times already. That's why I walked away to get my frappuccino. But that judge is also the same one to pen the majority opinion upholding the right for George W. Bush to keep U.S. citizens that were in Afghanistan held indefinitely in Gitmo as enemy combatants. So he's not no liberal snowflake person. He's also the same person who ruled in favor of, Virginia had a partial birth abortion ban that, was just trying to limit abortion some more, and he upheld that one. So he's not some hero to the left. He's a right-wing judge, man. He's okay with getting rid of abortion. He's okay with labeling people who are enemy combatants held indefinitely as an enemy combatant because they're not here on the U.S. soil, So somebody who's willing to say, well, if you're a U.S. citizen and you're fighting U.S. troops overseas, you are an enemy combatant. I don't give a shit if you do it. You can be held in Gitmo.
Mm-hmm.
Which I do think I don't agree with that, indefinite, but I do agree there's a distinction. Obviously there's a distinction between, somebody you're fighting in active hostility somewhere and, claiming that people requesting to live in your country are invading you.
Or people who have been here for 20 years and, have multiple children that live here and, an American wife.
Yeah. And there's another
criminal record.
Yeah, no. 77% of those people, just remember everybody, 77% of the people sent there have no criminal record.
I feel like the government should try to argue its actual case, which is
they're
poisoning the blood.
Well, that's the thing that Judge Zenas is so mad at.
They're not white enough. That they should just come out and be honest with their fucking racism.
Levitt and everybody else, I cannot believe there's not a defamation and libel case against Caroline Levitt and Trump and all of these people yet. Because they can't argue that in court. Because there is no evidence for this. They just rounded people up and tried to ship them out before anybody could go to court.
Yeah, they just tried to rush them out.
Exactly. And by the way, if you
have Trump on Truth Social talking about how there's not enough time. Let me find that real quick.
And by the way, do you know what's happening to these people right now? All the people who are down there in Seco? El Salvador's president is trying to pawn them, auction them off to Venezuela. He's trying to make a deal to get, people released from prisons in Venezuela in exchange for giving them all the people that they just got from us.
How would that work?
Well, the Trump administration doesn't want them back. And he knows the Trump administration doesn't want them back. And we have a deal. We have a contract with El Salvador, right? We don't have a contract with Venezuela. So if El Salvador just gives them away to Venezuela, how is Trump supposed to facilitate them coming back from El Salvador if they've been given away to Venezuela? Yeah, he's trying to sell them off, basically. And there's that. So, the judges have had it up to here with the Trump administration. They know they're full of shit. They won't try to present anything real in court. In fact, they just tried another 4 buses of people, and they got shut down. That's when the Supreme Court, gave them the injunction on it. But hey, there's other stuff going on, too.
I'm looking for this. I want to read this thing. I'm looking for it.
Which thing?
The Truth Social thing where he's like, we don't have time to put everyone
J.D. Vance did the same thing. J.D. Vance did it on Twitter, too. He talked about how, all you Americans want to get all worked up about due process. J.D. Vance did it, too. He was talking about how due process is stupid. Can't believe you all are asking for due process, That's so, 1900s to early 2000s. Or 1990s.
This is it. This is Donald Trump on Truth Social. I'm doing what I was elected to do. Remove criminals from our country. But the courts don't seem to want me to do that. My team is fantastic, doing an incredible job. However, they are being stymied at every turn. I feel like I should be doing a Trump voice, but I wasn't ready. At every turn by even the U.S. Supreme Court, which I have such great respect for, but which seemingly doesn't want to send violent criminals and terrorists back to Venezuela or any other country for that matter. People that came here illegally. Courts are intimidated by the radical left who are, quote, playing the ref. Great Supreme Court Justice Samuel Alito correctly wants to dissolve the pause on deportations. He is right on this. If we don't get these criminals out of our country, we are not going to have a country any longer. We cannot give everyone a trial because to do so would take, without exaggeration, 200 years. We would need hundreds of thousands of trials for the hundreds of thousands of illegals we are sending out of the country. Such a thing is not possible to do. What a ridiculous situation we are in. MAGA. No shit, motherfucker. No shit. It would take too long. It's almost like that's exactly why everyone said it was a stupid fucking idea. Okay, where do you want to pivot to?
Well,
I mean, the only way that you get this to work, right, is you have to completely abandon like the most foundational thing that makes America America, which is due process. Like,
yeah.
if you're not entitled to your day in court to prove your case, then nothing else about America matters. Like, doesn't having guns, having free speech, having none of the rest of it matters if they can just like bundle you off to El Salvadoran terrorist jail in the middle of the night without just because like dear leader says so. And then he's talking openly and repeatedly about the homegrowns are next. American citizens are next. And like this assertion that it's like, well, only the bad ones. This is like the typical like layer of bullshit on top of everything that they do, where he's like, well, only the bad ones. But then he says, that we've only been sending the bad ones. Meanwhile, 75% of these people have no fucking criminal record. Like, we're not only sending the bad ones, we're not even taking the time to check. We're only sending the brown ones.
Actually, they're not just. Well, yes, they are only sending the brown ones there, but they are starting to detain everybody. That's why.
Yeah,
we should probably talk about how much the U.S. tourism industry has plummeted.
But also, like, no one's going to want to come to school here.
No one's coming to here. No one's coming to the country. That's what I'm saying.
No one's gonna come here to work. No one's gonna come here for an education. Like all these brilliant inventions. Like you think Elon Musk is great? Motherfucker is an immigrant.
He's an African American.
He's an African American.
We need to remind Trump of that, man. He's an African American, man. Why you keep listening to this African American over here?
Oh my god.
But there's one little thing that I think you kind of went through in that ruling you were reading by Wilkinson, which is actually kind of funny. I was reading another article.
There was a bunch of things I wanted to stop on, but I just wanted to read through it first.
Because one of the things he cited that you're like, it was actually a subtle message to the Supreme Court and to John Roberts. One of them was when he talked about the energy in the executive, must be respected, Federalist the number 70, blah, 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 right?
Yes.
Because that is a direct throwback to Trump versus U.S., where John Roberts, gave him immunity for everything. And that's why he says, the difference in there, the executive is inherently focused upon ends, the judiciary so much upon means. Ends are bestowed on the executive by electoral outcomes. Means are entrusted to all forms of government, but most especially to the judiciary by the Constitution, right? Saying hey, you say he can do whatever with no thing. He's just going to try to get the means. Or the ends. Whatever the ends are, he'll do it because you said he can do whatever the fuck he wants. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Not by the means, so it's kind of a throwback to saying, hey, you guys need to fucking reverse Trump versus U.S. You know what I mean? Yeah. And, yeah, that's why also Sonia Sotomayor, New York, like when they were talking about...
So wait, tell me, what was the basis of Trump versus U.S.?
Well, the president gets immunity. He can kill somebody.
That one.
That's Trump versus U.S. He can get immunity for anything. He can kill somebody if it's an official act. He can kill his political rivals if it's an official act.
I just don't understand why Joe Biden didn't officially just murder this motherfucker.
Well, because the Supreme Court also left just enough wiggle room that they are the sole arbiters of what is an official act.
Bro, you're old. Bro is old. Like, you lived a good life, Joe. Okay? Got to be VP for 8 years.
I know, he should have done it.
You got to be senator for like 60 years. You could have just...
I think he should have done an official act, too. I mean, it would have been a good official act.
Like, who would have come for you? Not Trump.
Yep. Anyway, let's see. But, yeah, the courts are actually starting to act like, hey, we got to stop this guy. So now the question is just whether he will listen to them. Because the only thing the courts can do is say, hey, U.S. Marshal Service, go there and grab Donald Trump and J.D. Vance and Kristi Noem and Pam Bondi, your boss, and everybody else. And Pam Bondi can just say, no, you're not doing it. I'm ordering you not to.
No, but they can do more than that. They can send the marshals after the foot soldiers.
Yeah, and Pam Bondi is the U.S. Marshal's boss. So Pam Bondi can say no.
What do the U.S. Marshals do when Pam Bondi says one thing and the Supreme Court says another?
Well, they say, well, the Supreme Court said we have to do this. And she says, yeah, I'm ordering you not to. Well, we're going to have to do it anyway. You're fired. Then what do they do? Now they're fired. Now they're not U.S. Marshals anymore.
I feel like that gets people out into the streets. Love to see it.
It might, and Pam Bondi wouldn't give a shit. Okay, let him go in the streets, whatever. What's the worst thing that could happen to her? She'll get a pardon.
Pam
They have a
Bondi
lawless.
is like
It's
Pam
just.
Bondi is horrible.
Oh yeah, no, they all are. People voted for this. They voted for that.
This is not what people voted for. This isn't what they like.
The funny thing is, it's not what people voted for, and actually the polling says that. The polling shows that. The polling is like, this is not what they voted for. They voted for lower prices, and oh yeah, he's like meaning that shit. He's just going to go after criminals. He doesn't mean that. They don't mean mass deportations. They don't mean this. He's just talking out of his ass like he always does. And now they're saying that, oh, they did mean they just want to kick everybody out. Well, you guys were right. He's not good at the economy. Shit. But he was a successful businessman after going bankrupt all those times.
Dude, like my favorite thing about his like apprentice thing is that the boardroom in the show is a set, because the actual boardroom at like Trump's headquarters is like a shithole.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's not. Yeah. It looks like trash.
It was like a Sopranos office place, some cabinets and yeah, it looked like the back room of the strip club at the Sopranos or something,
Yeah, amazing. So
and they operated much the same way too.
So fitting.
But yeah, we gotta. I'm just surprised that they turned the stuff around and they have stopped so far. Now he keeps attacking everybody, he's attacking the judges. But I think part of that's just because also the poll numbers are so bad, they're going so bad for him.
Mm-hmm.
And everybody knows it's his judges. They're the ones who gave him immunity. These are the judges that, everybody knows. Everybody knows, even if you don't pay any attention to politics, everybody knows that this is like the most right-wing Supreme Court we've ever had, And so if this Supreme Court is saying no, it would you can't just blame this U.S. Supreme Court and say, oh, well, they're a bunch of leftists. He put half of them there. And everybody knows, he does that anyway. Every time he hires somebody, shit, how many national security advisors, defense secretaries, chief of staffs, come on, he goes through everybody like water. He hires only the best people, and he fires them a month later when they're incompetent, or when they just say, yeah, he's full of shit. Or like his first, Secretary of State, who said he's a fucking idiot, or a fucking moron, Do
you think he's going to fire
Hegseth? Well, yeah. Hegseth's he's getting himself fired, man. He'll do what he always does. He'll stick with somebody for a little bit, and more shit will come out. Another story's going to come out. They'll probably have video of him drinking at the Pentagon and puking and while groping somebody or something, and then they'll give him an attaboy. And then another story will come out, and then they'll fire him. Something. He's a disaster,
Any thoughts on who they'll...
But he loves having shitty people around him anyway. Because no matter what, he loves having shitty people with him. Because...
It's part of the circus.
Not only that, it's always part of the blame game, You keep somebody around who's kind of shitty, you roll the dice, nothing bad happens. Something bad happens, oh man, he was incompetent. He sucked. And somehow he thinks that absolves him of any, blame. Because
I didn't fail at these Ukraine negotiations. Hegseth was too much of a dipshit. That ruined it for us.
Well, Hegseth, well, not Ukraine, but yeah, whatever, something else.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, shit, just all of them, man, they're so incompetent, so bad. But yeah, I don't think he'll last. He won't last because... his best friend, Hegseth's best friend came out with an op-ed against him, saying that he's got to go and he's a disgrace and everything. Hegseth's best friend who has, her job at the Pentagon was like, yeah, this guy's got to go. Total chaos. More shoes are going to drop,
If only there had been
somebody who told us.
If only someone had had any clue that this was going to be the case, and if only there was a deliberative investigative body that would hold them to account.
The deliberative body. It sounds like you're talking about what used to be descriptive of the Senate
before they were just a rubber stamp for whatever Trump wanted to rest his balls on.
Well, hey, in other news though, hey, speaking of the U.S. Senate. And this goes with the House too, but just bills. We now have a new American record. There's a new American record.
Mm.
At this point in any president's administration, we now have the absolute fewest laws passed and the absolute most executive orders passed.
Yes, I did see that.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's where he's like,
remember when Obama
is just golfing all the time. He's just a dictator, just signing executive orders.
Yeah. He was a dictator for it, although, granted, they can't stay at this pace, but he's on pace to double Obama's executive orders after 8 years.
Why not? Like,
In the next,
his
in the next like 2
signing
years.
arm is not getting tired.
No, I know, man. Like Title VI of the Civil Rights Act, by executive order this morning. Nope, not enforcing that. Nope.
What's that one say?
It's got a lot of things. Now, the big headliner, which this morning I read this story this morning, I was like, he signs an executive order about or disparate impact, right? Disparate impact. And I was like, that seems a little vague. And I was like, I don't got time to look at this right now. I'll look at it later. I'm sure there's more to it than that. Right? Disparate impact is like your company has a practice that says something that's not meant to be discriminatory, right? Maybe you didn't mean it to be discriminatory. Maybe you just said lifeguards have to only wear a Speedo on the bottom and have to be able to lift 400 pounds dead weight. Okay.
I mean to say that it has to be dudes.
Well, it doesn't say dudes. They didn't mean it to be dudes, but hey, after they writing this law or writing this rule, turns out that a woman would not apply for this, or something, or wouldn't benefit or whatever, right? Or they would be excluded because of it, all right?
Or what you would do is you'd be like, they have to all, use the same shower and be naked in the locker room.
Well, that would be okay. That would be fine. They could do that.
Yes. And then women don't want to go become lifeguards.
It's something where the text of something is, the unintended consequences, basically. Hey, we didn't mean this to be discriminatory, but it turns out it's very discriminatory, in practice. And they want to make sure they get rid of that. Funny enough, though, Title VI also applies to a couple other things, such as the right for women to have credit cards and loans and bank accounts in their own names.
Really?
Yeah, because that wasn't until the 70s when they didn't have to have their husband co-sign. They had to request their husband's permission for everything, get them on the loans, things like that.
It's like shocking how not that long ago, our parents, in our parents' lifetime, women were not allowed to have a bank account.
Yeah. Well, they could have a bank account, but their husband had to sign, or a male family member.
Yeah, that's tantamount to they can't have their own bank account.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
children also cannot have their own bank account.
So that's all wrapped up in Title VI. So that's all in the same thing of Title VI.
I'm sure that's not a coincidence. They want Handmaid's Tale. They saw it and they were like, that looks good.
Hell yeah, man! I want an Donald.
They were like, a Tradwife's tale. It looks great.
So, but yeah, that's in the news. That is one of the other executive orders today. Oh yeah, discrimination's okay.
So, on the similar thing, there's the way that they're trying to incentivize childbirth.
That by itself, I don't even see an issue with, other than the fact that it's just another example of this fucking administration trying to shove a whole shitload of money down Elon Musk's throat.
The thing that I don't think that's a whole lot of money. He's only going to get. He's only going to get
the world
like $100K or something. But no, but like one of the proposals, right, is we'll give them $5,000, but you won't give them paid maternity leave.
Of course not.
You won't give them child care. You
won't deport the nanny.
And this is at the same time that you are criminalizing miscarriages.
Yeah,
people are going to jail.
Yeah,
multiple people are going to jail
for
having miscarriages. And you think $5,000 is gonna get them to be like, baby me up? Are you fucking insane?
Yeah, I know.
Well, here's another Caroline Levitt. Caroline Levitt said the president is proudly implementing policies to uplift American families. Yeah, sure, bro. Sorry, what were you gonna say?
I was thinking, there's more and more people getting miscarriages. By itself, though, I think $5,000 is great. I wish they would do that. There is declining. But here's the thing. Here's the thing that's funny though, because they're so mad. Elon Musk and Republicans are really mad about. I think you shared it actually. I think you might have shared it with me. One of those things about the declining birth rates, right? And the declining birth rate is the vast majority of the 15 to 21 range, and then the second one that's going down is the 24 to 29 range, right? Every other age group spiking. There's a lot of 30-year-old women having kids, more than ever, like hockey sticks. No,
it's just going up. It's not.
But overall, the birth rate is declining because of such a decline in teen pregnancies. And what better way to get a woman to, get her, trapped early and get her knocked up at 15 and make her drop out of school?
I think these things are like, I think that part of like the outrage at these things is like, it's not like, is $5,000 a good idea? It's that they're doing so many
Horrible
big
things.
things to
Yeah.
incentivize,
It's the Joker and
like
Batman.
they're disincentivizing it, which is why it's not happening. And they're like, what if we gave you a nickel and told you not to spend it all in one place? Would you have a baby? And it's just like, are you fucking retarded? Like, no, obviously not. People aren't having babies because they can't fucking afford to. They can't buy a house. They can't pay their student loans. And now the student loans are going into default, and they're putting them into collections. That was another one of the fun little news stories from this week. Like, people can't afford to live. That's why they're not having babies, because they can't fucking afford them. Because all of the wealth has been sucked out of the younger people and been given to the older people. I think, what else was there though? There was at least a couple more things. I swear that there's something else besides just the $5,000. There was a few things.
Oh, wow, El Salvador.
However, Moms Rising CEO Kristen Rao-Finkelbeiner, whose organization says it advocates on behalf of more than 1 million mothers and families, said the programs are sheer lunacy, coercive, counterproductive recipes for failure. Like, it's just like when they say that they're pro-life, and then, like, so you'll make it so like someone can't have an abortion, but then you're not going to help them take care of the baby. You're not going to give them health care so that they can live, which is why we have this like obscenely high infant mortality rate that like we absolutely shouldn't have in this country because we have so much wealth, but we just don't take care of people or educate them. So yeah, no, it is just so like on its face offensive when you're doing so much big policy to make it like impossible and ruinous to even consider having children. And then at the same time offering them this sort of like bullshit pittance and calling it like, oh, we're uplifting the families.
Yeah. Remember, they didn't even want health coverage. Republicans were against maternity coverage being required for insurance companies. So if you are pregnant, oh well, you can't get any of that kind of coverage. You can't get ultrasounds. You can't get that stuff. That's not covered. How are you pro-life if you're not even going to want the person to have a healthy baby?
Yeah, it's just
Like, we'll give you $5,000 we'll give you $5,000 if you push it out. We're not going to do anything else along the way until it happens. We're not going to do anything for you after it happens, other than the $5,000. And if you miscarry, like that girl, what was her name? Selena Maria Chandler Scott in Georgia. And if you miscarry along the way, not only do you not get the $5,000, but your ass is going to jail.
And like,
murder.
We're so pro-life that, if someone wants to to buy a gun and shoot up a school, like, we're not going to do anything to address that either.
And we're so pro-life that if somebody says that you're a gang member, we're going to lock you up for life in prison without being able to talk or anything, without torture. That's how pro-life we are. We are so pro-life that we will send your ass to a place to be tortured for life.
Without due process.
Without due process. That's a waste of time, though. Yeah. And despite what you may have seen at the grocery store, Donald Trump says prices are going down. That everything's cheaper.
I think
he said it's cheaper.
The grocery stores.
He said it's cheaper. Don't look at the price tag. He said it's cheaper. It's cheaper.
I buy basically the same things.
It's cheaper
all the time.
It's cheaper, isn't it? It's a lot cheaper.
It's the same price.
It's cheaper.
Sometimes
he says it's cheaper.
Sometimes the bill is cheaper because instead of going to Costco, I go to Aldi, or like, instead of buying, 10 kombuchas for 2 of us for a week, I only buy 6. Like, the bill is a little less then, but no, it's definitely not cheaper.
Well, either way, they just hit an all-time high, by the way. Price of eggs.
Did it really?
Yeah. This is days after a day or two after he said the price of eggs are coming down, gasoline, everything's coming down. 2 days later, it's a new record high,
Well, whatchamacallit. So Fortune ran a story, I can't see what the date is, but I just have an Instagram picture of the story, but Fortune ran a story about America's largest egg producer saw profits triple last quarter after raking in millions in government assistance. The nation's largest egg producer, Cal-Maine, announced quarterly profits of $509 million, more than 3 times what it made a year ago. Record profit despite a shortage. It couldn't be any more clear. Workers demanding higher wages aren't causing prices. Greedy corporations are. And this goes right back to like the stuff about the eggs that like we told you, I think more than once on previous episodes, which is like in the Biden era, when the egg prices started to rise, he brought them down by threatening to do a monopoly lawsuit, like an antitrust case, investigation, I think, against because it's only like 5 egg companies and they just collude on the price. So like when like there was no shortage of eggs, like a bunch of birds died, yes, but they used that as cover to jack up the prices and slow down the supply, so that they could say, oh well, the prices are so crazy, I just got to charge you so much more because all the birds died. But no,
Yeah, but at
they
the same
still
time,
had
though,
enough eggs.
yeah, I mean, at the same time, though, yes, they gouge and they do that, but there is a reason for that. For even though the supply is coming down, they're going to keep the prices higher because they know the supply is coming down. You know what I mean? And if the supply is coming down, you're going to sell less of them in the future. You're going to make less profit. The demand's going to go down. More of them are going to go bad. You're going to throw them out. Da da da. I mean,
Yeah,
there's
but that's only possible when you have a monopoly. When you have too few companies and they're colluding to fix the price. Because what happens is somebody goes, I don't need to make 3 times more profit than I made last year. I'll be fine with 2 times more profit than I made last year, and then they'll undercut them. And then the guy who's trying to make triple is fucked, right? And so then the guy who's trying to make triple goes, I'll make 1.5 times. And now the guy who's trying to make double is fucked. This is how the market is supposed to work. Like everybody wants the dollar, so you compete for it. But when there's only 5 companies, you can just go out for drinks and be like, triple the price. We agree? Triple 3 times? Triple the price. Okay, cool.
Yeah, by the way, just to make sure everybody knows, just for some facts and figures, and this is from a really good CNN article on yesterday. The price of eggs, gas, Trump fact check, index H2. All right, whatever. It says, the fact check on some of these things, like gas. He said that the gas prices hit $1.98 in a couple of states. Not true. Not a single state. No state, right? Had an average $1.98. $1.98.
In what year?
He said right now on Thursday. He said on Thursday, gas prices hit $1.98 yesterday. So he's saying on Wednesday, which is not true. No state had an average price below $2.70. The average is $3.17. They did find the least expensive gas in the country. They had one at $2.19 at a station in Texas, right? The White House couldn't substantiate his claim when CNN inquired, saying, hey, where did you get this fault? Where did you get these numbers from, right? They didn't say it. They said, hey, gas prices in the middle of America are at record lows. And then the next day he said 3 states had hit $1.98. Again, there was no basis for that. No place, right?
Trump is selling.
Yes, he's just selling fairy tales.
Trump is selling 1 gallon of gasoline for $1.98 to himself.
Maybe
one of his, slums.
When he said about the grocery prices, they're way down. No, that's not true. Their prices are up. Eggs, he said the cost of eggs has come down 93 or 94% since he took office. Now, this isn't that long ago.
It wasn't
even have short-term memory, but from January till now. January, a dozen eggs was $4.95, which was high. It was so high that Biden had to go. And now the average price is $6.23. So, no, has not come down 93, 94%. It's like, $2 a dozen more. So, yeah. He's just full of shit. They just keep saying stuff, whatever.
36,000 times, which is... It seems absurd to have lied 36,000 times. I don't think in my life I've lied 36,000 times.
What seems absurd to
you gotta
me,
be dedicated.
honestly, is... Here's the thing. Like, we always talk about, like, Fox and things like that, and these other outlets, I'm like, these people are just too stupid. And you're like, oh, you can't blame people for being stupid, right? People blindly listen to Trump. Yeah, Trump said this, he's going to do this, he's going to do this. But the price of groceries is the price of groceries, right? If it was $4 or $5 a gallon, and you're poor as shit, and you're, like, getting coupons, and you're, like, watching your budget, and you're, like, making a list of where you can get stuff at when you do grocery shopping, because, times are tough. And then the president, Donald Trump, your idol, your god, your false prophet, right, starts saying that the price of eggs is down 95%. And then you go shopping, and you see that the price of eggs is up another $2. How can you continue to just believe him?
I have the answer to this. He meant 95.
But it wouldn't be down at all. It was up. He said it's come down 95% since he took office.
He said what he was trying to do, is he was trying to say 95 pennies, but then he caught himself in the middle of pennies and said 95 cents. He was like 95%.
So he meant it's only gone up 95? No, but that's not right either.
He's old, man. Sometimes he'd be slurring his words.
At some point, so we know like they have their own reality, right? Like right wing, left wing, different realities. In one reality, every brown person's a criminal, rapist, murderer from an asylum, right? That needs to be deported without courts or anything. And on the other side, you're like, whoa, what the fuck? None of these people have criminal records. What are they doing? This is crazy. This is unconstitutional, right? Okay.
No, because like even in that reality, like even on Earth 2, they're going due process is like, that's a good, we need that. Like,
I know,
that's,
like Joe Rogan and other people are saying that, like, whoa, this is
yeah.
scary. What are you talking about? But, okay, but that's one thing, right? But, like, this administration does this on everything. At what point do you think people will ever stop blindly believing everything they say and that they hear on Fox and what the president says when their objective reality comes crashing into the scene? And like,
I will
whoa,
tell you when. I will tell you the exact moment
when
when
their
they will
friends,
stop. Here's when. When they are in the gas chamber, the gas has been turned on,
then they'll
and they
realize,
are breathing their last breath. That is when they will believe, and not a second before then.
no. I mean, he is underwater, though. He is underwater. Independents have fucking abandoned. No, it doesn't really matter. He's not running for re-election, but I mean, the party's still the party. I'm just hoping that
Wait, you
enough
said
people.
he's not running for re-election? He is absolutely running for re-election, bro.
I
There's no doubt in my mind that he is running for re-election, and that he's going to try to steal it, and that they're going to steal. Like, watch, bro. They're going to do some bullshit trickery nonsense.
but here's the thing:
There's going to be a thing.
if his numbers are down, like say, let's just say in the 20s, and we're in a depression, and everything is shit, and like there is literally nothing at all good about America anymore. We are just our price. We are in like post-Soviet Union bread lines at the stores, waiting in line for our coupons of bread because shit is so bad.
Bro, the only way that would ever happen is if the activist judges and the evil Democrats and the people and the sinners in the cities just like all stood up and like stopped these good Christian men from doing the Lord's work. That's the only way that would ever happen.
If the numbers are so bad, at some point,
in such a situation, only Trump could save us.
Okay, at some point, if his numbers are this bad, and everything is that bad, and the stories are that bad, and the polling's that bad, and the economy's and shit, and the Supreme Court, all these other judges, at some point, they're going to be like, yeah, no, that's unconstitutional, you can't do a third term, and also, you would think he may not have a big well of support of people coming out to try to do another insurrection to keep him there for a third term.
Bro, it won't matter.
Right?
It won't matter.
I don't know.
It won't matter.
We'll see.
He's not in there. He's not trying to win a third election. He's gonna win. He's gonna have the biggest win ever for his third term. He's gonna win 550 electoral seats.
God.
Like the idea that they would be doing this and thinking that they could disrupt people's lives in such bigly egregious ways. Like they could do so many things that are so impactful to so many of the people in their base that are all harmful, right? To think that they could do that and then win an election when the thing that they're doing is destroying your 401k and like the impacts of the way that they've like fucked us in the global market are not even hitting people yet. It's going to come to them at the end of this year when there's fewer toys under the Christmas tree, when like nobody gets a bonus. Like it is going to be only going to get worse from here, right? The avocados are only going to get more expensive. They're not trying to be like, gaze upon my great works and vote for me again. They're trying to go, you will eat shit and like it. And if you don't, we will say that you liked it and we will steal your right to have a voice from it and send you to a fucking prison. Shut the fuck up.
Yeah.
I'm telling you. Like, they're very obviously not trying to win. They're not trying. The political strategy is control the levers of power and steal every election from now on. And you only need, like, a few thousand people to be in on the take, and there's plenty of money to fund those few thousand people.
That is true.
Yeah, this was the plan all along.
Oh, man, but if it makes things so bad, at some point, it doesn't make it harder to steal if, 80% of the countries... I mean, look at Ukraine. Look at Yanukovych.
Look at
He won the election, and the people were so pissed, he had to go. You know what I mean?
But don't look at Ukraine. Look at Russia. And here's the thing. The only reason that Yanukovych had to go was because of the Revolution of Dignity. It was the children in the Maidan for months in the winter being shot at by riot police and refusing to give up their future. That's the only reason. That's the thing. That's the 3% of the population sustained protest. That's the only reason. That's the only reason. If it hadn't been for that, it would, still be a puppet government. And like the thing to look at is not like Yanukovych in Ukraine. You need to look at Russia. in the last election? Or how about
election.
what was it called? Like I don't think it was a referendum. Whatever the thing where they had Crimea vote on whether or not they wanted to be part of Ukraine or Russia while they
where they held up
pointed
empty
bullets at
ballots,
them.
where they had the
Yeah.
Ukrainian woman do the empty ballots.
Yes.
Da, da, da.
They counted
I'm not even looking at
empty
them. I'm just saying
ballots
that these
without
are
even
all.
looking at them, and they wouldn't allow anyone to any foreign observers into the country, and
they brought in machine guns, and you weren't allowed to do your own ballot. You had to tell the person with the machine gun to your head, who do you support? Okay, just making sure. Okay, cool. We'll take your ballot. Thank you.
Yeah, exactly. And then, 90% of the people wanted it. Putin wins by 90% every fucking time. 90% of the people in Russia don't want Putin. I mean, as much as I think that there are a large amount of the Russian population, like the vast majority of the Russian population, is happy enough to be despicable so long as they can benefit from it personally. Not all of them want Putin. Because it's not even really good for most of them. It's bad for basically everybody who doesn't live in Moscow. If you're not an oligarch or oligarch adjacent, it's not a great time. It's not fun. You have a shitty car, you have a shitty house, you probably don't have a toilet, you probably don't have a hair dryer. When they first did the invasion 3 years ago, as they were retreating, when they didn't just get to take the whole country immediately, they were stealing the fucking toilets because they don't have toilets. You can Google Russian toilets,
washer and dryers, toilet. Yeah. Oh yeah, I mean, it was
toasters.
Oh my god,
microwaves.
They
coffee
were
machines.
blown away at how advanced these Ukrainians were that they have toilets and washing machines.
Yeah, they live in the fucking Stone Ages, dude. There's no way that 90% of them want Putin because they're all getting fucked.
Well, here's the thing though: those people
aren't people
in big cities either. Those are the people that they kept pulling from the Far East and all these little, poor, impoverished, rural places. That way, it doesn't affect the, his power, the cities, the population centers, But either way, yeah. I mean, hey, we'll see. I'm hopeful. I'm still hopeful that we will have real elections and things like that because they're fucking up so bad. Because they're fucking up so bad, and because they're so incompetent in everything they're doing.
They're incompetent enough to steal this election, bro.
Well, they've tried to steal every election. I mean, Jesus. But they try to steal every election, But
they got it done this time.
Maybe, maybe not. Either way, it doesn't. Whether or not they did steal enough, I mean, it was already close. And polling was already so close, and exit polling, even before announcements, pretty much coincided with the way the votes went. So I don't know if they necessarily stole it. They definitely, in some places, did enough fuckery to make a difference, that maybe or maybe not. Maybe it could have gone either way or something, Either way, though, I mean, it's still 50% of the country fucking voted for an idiot. Whether they stole enough here and there, they did something.
No, hold on. No, 30% of the country.
Okay.
50% of the people who decided to vote.
49% of the people who voted, or 49% of the people who voted, or whatever. Yes, I know. It's 37% because people didn't vote. Whatever.
Yes.
What I'm saying is, a shocking number of people voted for this idiot.
I'm not shocked. And here's why. Because I don't think that it's so much that they're voting for Trump as that they are
idiots
voting against the Democrats.
Well, to me, that's even more stupid. That's even more stupid to me because we already fucking had 4 years of Trump and it was bad enough. Anyway.
No, but here's the thing, okay? There are members of my family, and not the one you would think, other members of my family, who have said for years things just like this, okay? Everyone in the government is corrupt. They're all liars and thieves, and we should just kill them all and start over. That is almost a verbatim quote from a senior relative of mine from many years ago, preceding Trump. And this is a person who lives in a rural area, who didn't go to college. So this is a widely held belief, and
it's still stupid. It's stupid.
It's not an unfounded belief.
It is.
It's not an unfounded belief.
It is.
No, it's not. Because here's the thing that they are noticing. Here's what you have to speak to. All of the money is flowing upwards into a small percentage of people, and it has been for decades. And it hasn't made a difference who's been the president. It just keeps happening. The money keeps flowing in that way. Everyone is increasingly underwater. Everyone is increasingly poor. Their dollar doesn't go as far. They can't afford a house, or the house costs too much and they got to sell it. They get into medical debt. On and on and on. They are going I am a frog in a pot of water, and the water is getting hotter. Fuck this stove. Like, if you come out with a message that says, this stove is great, this stove is super fine, like, oh man, less laughter and joy about this stove. Like, you are missing the reality of these people, and you are telling them, like, no, like, you're all just rich and living in your second homes, aren't you? Like, no, they're not. Like, they're much more likely to believe a lie that says that acknowledges the most basic foundational truth of their life. That is like, you're feeling a little fucking robbed, aren't you? Like, you're feeling like you're getting shit on. Like, this is a raw deal for you, isn't it? It's that guy's fault. Look at that immigrant. It's totally his fault. Those damn Chinese. That's who's fucking us. You know, like, that is a believable story because the foundational belief, the foundational truth is you're getting fucked.
Yeah, well, either way, long story short, TLDR, they're still stupid because, if you just think, they're all bad, everything's bad, and I'm going to go with the party that really would just, not just, support rich people, but absolutely sell us out and do everything else and take away our rights, then you're just stupid. So, sorry, I don't have any sympathy for those people. I think that is a problem with the person. You're never going to convince me otherwise. People like that are too stupid to live.
Okay, but if they're too stupid to live, why aren't we smart enough to convince them to vote for us? Because it's not about how stupid they are. It's really about us versus the Republicans competing to convince the stupid person of our truth. That's the point of failure. It doesn't matter how dumb they are. They're going to be as dumb as they are no matter what. We are competing against the Republicans. And if you look at the Republicans, they're fucking stupid and they are mean and they are incompetent.
Yep.
Okay? Like, we are too busy being up our own ass, thinking we can win, believing our own bullshit. Like, we're believing that when we delivered business as usual, but we called it hope and change, that it was hope and change. That is the foundational mistake of, like, the Democrats, is believing their own sales pitch that they never
really,
fucking
God
deliver
damn
on.
it. You keep talking about Obama hope and change and doing this other.
That was the
People
first
need
time I was
you,
pissed.
Gabe. You need to know more about civics and how things get done and who was in charge for 6 years of Obama's presidency.
There was a Republican-controlled House or Senate for 6 years of his presidency.
Mm-hmm.
You know why there was?
Yes.
Because in the first 2 years, when he had all three branches of government, he did fucking nothing.
Well, they pushed through the healthcare thing, and it became a huge noose that they got hung on. Because all the big money in politics said, oh my God, look what they're doing in healthcare and all they're doing this death panels and blah, blah, blah. And, they got it done, they got it pushed through, but the insurance lobbies made them pay for it.
Yeah, he should have just made the deal so good that everyone would have loved it.
It was never going to matter. It doesn't matter what the deal was. It's what people consume. It's what stupid people consume based on TV advertisements and things like that. Well, back then it was TV advertisements.
Bro, we had the whole thing. He could have been like, the minimum wage is tripled. Healthcare is free. Education is free. We're going to take on half of your house debt if you want to build a new home.
You do need to get it passed.
He had everybody.
Bill passed, man.
We had the whole show, bro. If you can't get your agenda done with the whole show. Man.
We didn't have 60-something people in the Senate. You still had people like Joe Manchin. You still had, Jesus, back then John McCain was in the Senate still. I mean, think about who was in office and where we were, and that shit was never going to pass. There was like 10 Democrats or 15 Democrats who would never even have voted for that. That wasn't going to happen. They did the best they could for something, and then afterwards they paid the price for it, and then yes, they couldn't get all these other big minimum wage increase and everything else because they got their asses handed to them, and we're in the minority party in the House and Senate for 6 years. You can't blame Obama for that.
I do.
Well, either way.
I do. He did not. Here's what he didn't do. He didn't do something that would have accomplished the mission. And the mission was make people so, like, oh my God, elated that they can't, they're crawling over each other to race to the polls and vote for you again. Like, that was the mission. He had all of the tools, and he did not accomplish the mission.
Actually, he did, because he won big in a re-election. They did race to the polls for him. The problem was, people always think that, like, oh, my person's okay. I like my congressperson. I like my senator. I don't like all these other ones, but I like mine. And that's why the incumbents win all the time. And when they have Republicans in there, whoever their party is, people vote. They don't vote for change. They vote for their incumbents.
They
vote for change for president.
Did he codify Roe v. Wade in law?
Presidents don't do that. Civics. Presidents don't do that. House and Senate does that.
Okay, so by that, the president sets the agenda and he directs the party on what they will do. And when the
Cool.
party
And
is in power,
if you're the president and you have a minority in the House and Senate, you are not setting the agenda for the
first
House
two
and Senate.
years he had the majority. He could have codified Roe v. Wade.
Yes, they could have done that when at the time they still had the majority on the Supreme Court and justices who were in favor of it.
He could have done the John Lewis Voting Rights Act. He could have
That didn't
gone
exist then. That wasn't a thing then.
Okay, but it could have.
It could have in theory had John Lewis thought about it 10 years earlier. Yes, it could have.
You're telling me that like nobody knew about voter suppression and gerrymandering and all this other bullshit? Like Jim Crow's been going on for 200 years, bro. Come on.
Gerrymandering wasn't the biggest story at the time because the Democrats just finished winning. They had to win an election. Obama won Iowa. I mean, think about it. Obama won Iowa. He won Indiana, right?
I guess it would be okay. I guess it would be okay for them to not have any foresight because they hadn't fallen over in getting elected.
Yeah, I'm saying that if you had a black man, Democrat, winning states like Iowa and Indiana, you know, and like having a huge electoral win, right? And at the time they had a House and Senate, and yes, gerrymandering's always been a thing. Every 10 years they do a little bit of gerrymandering here and there, but it wasn't really a...
They could have gone after Citizens United.
When was Citizens United decided? And how did they... Wait, hold on. Citizens United decision was in 2010. 2010. No, they couldn't have gone after it then. They'd already just lost. They'd already lost the House and Senate. You see what I'm saying? We put on our rose-colored glasses here and remember things a little differently, but we have to think about the reality at the time and who can do what. And this is what I get mad about voters for. They go, oh, they didn't do this. They could have done this. They couldn't do this. Think about what it was at the time. They came in with a big thing here. There wasn't this big worry about voting rights, you know? The first black man just got elected in Iowa and Indiana and all the other states, and man, everybody's feeling good. The economy was in the fucking tank, a great recession going on, got to save the economy. Remember what was going on, you know, at the time they got elected.
I mean, he could have held the banks accountable. Imagine if anyone had gone to jail for that bullshit. Imagine if there had been any, like, new laws governing that bullshit. Wouldn't that have been nice?
Well, yeah, maybe, but I mean, at the same time though, what law?
Here's the thing: it's not like money in politics. It's not like money in politics was a new problem.
But here's the thing: again, no, this is again another thing about civics, right? What law should we have used to put these people in jail after 8-10 years of deregulation? We got to deregulate everything, and then yes. It came to a head. Oh my God, financial crisis. Well, what law did they break? Republicans spent the previous decade making sure all these regulations against things were gone. What law did they break? They made bets. They made bad bets, and it cost the country a lot, and it almost wrecked the economy. But what law was broken? None, because Republicans got rid of all the regulations beforehand. So, I mean, yes, it sounds good. Put them in jail. Lock them up. For what?
Okay. Did anybody get investigated?
I think there actually was. They did investigations into it, but I mean, if there's not a law...
Did the IRS go after anyone? Did all the big bankers have to sit in Congress for a month and testify about how they didn't fucking destroy the world's economy?
Yeah, I mean, they did partly that's why they did all the other acts here. It was unethical. I don't think anybody said there was ever any laws broken. They might have done unethical practices and bad decision-making, but...
Here's another thing.
Here's like people in jail because of a bad thing happens.
Here's the greater flaw in the 2008 financial crisis, okay? Market upsets are a natural occurrence. It's like fire in a forest, okay? Yeah. When the forest burns down, the old growth gets destroyed and the nutrients are returned to the soil and a new growth springs up. And it's the same thing. When these bankers want to come out and take this big risk and, you know, profit from it, make huge, ridiculous amounts of money betting on bets,
mm-hmm.
Then they pay the price. Like, they shouldn't have bailed them out. They should have just let them all fail and let new financial institutions come up to replace them and transfer the wealth to the new system. Like, this is the problem, is that, you know, they all want pull yourself up by your bootstraps capitalism until a corporation fails, and then they need a fucking handout. Then they're too big to fail. You know, give us this money. Like, that's part of the problem, is like, you're not allowing this natural cycle of like, yeah, burn out the old, bring in the new to happen. Like, It's all of these things at once. Because, like, here's the thing: you might not have needed a citizens. You might not have needed to get against Citizens United if you don't let the people become so ridiculously wealthy to begin with. You know, like if they had let the banks fail, like, and they'd be like, hey, if the economy collapses, then the economy was built in a way that it collapsed, and it should be rebuilt in a way that it won't collapse. Then you have to figure out. Then you have the full head of steam, everyone supporting you. Oh, here's how we're going to rebuild the economy. We're certainly not letting those chuckle fucks do what they did again.
Yeah, maybe.
And then they don't have so much fucking money on money on money that there's nothing else to do with it but buy all the fucking governments.
Maybe. At the same time, woulda, coulda, shoulda. That doesn't mean anything, though. It doesn't mean, like... But, again, I mean, yeah, maybe they did it, and maybe they should have went the other way. Maybe they said, hey, we're at 10% unemployment right now, and maybe they should have just went, all right, fuck it. We'll just let all this stuff go, and maybe we'll hit 25, 30% unemployment, and shit will really go off the rails, and then we'll see what happens. Maybe we'll be better off in the long run.
And the thing that
That's
really
a gamble.
pissed me off,
That's a big gamble too. That's a huge gamble.
Everything is. But the thing that really pissed me off about Obamacare was like the lack of balls. Just like the complete lack of balls. You had all the power and you did nothing. You did fucking nothing with it. You did the most limp dick shit. You're like, oh, what are we gonna do? Are we gonna do Medicare for all? Are we gonna, like, revolutionize healthcare in America? No. We're going to do Mitt Romney's plan from a long time ago, because even though these guys are going to stab us in the back the first fucking chance they get, maybe we could get them to not be obstructionist bastards if we sell them their own plan back to them. But no, they said, no, fuck that plan. It comes from you. It's fucking poison. We are holding the knife. We are waiting to stab you in the back, and we will as soon and as often as you allow us to. This is the fundamental mistake of Obama and of all of these corporatist fucking Democrats ever since. This whole establishment is fucking rotten. It's rotten with this, like, love of, like, slow inaction. The promise of, like, 10 generations from now, it'll be better. Vote for that.
Again, people need civics lessons, though, man. People need to know civics. Because a president can't just wave his magic hand. Yes, he did some shit that was stupid. Yes, he tried negotiating with them and trying to get a bipartisan deal, which was never going to happen because, he was a little too naive, like Hillary told him when they were running in the primaries against each other. Hillary's like, he just thinks the clouds will open, the skies will be here, and everything will be great if he's, president, and she knew it would be a fight, He was too naive. He learned his lesson after a couple of years.
He did learn his lesson.
But
he did better the second time, but he missed the moment.
And he did a lot better the second time, and he had a minority in Congress. I mean, but then people who blast...
I understand the way you're hamstrung when you have the minority in Congress.
Yeah, it's a big deal. It's a really big deal. That's why Biden, I don't give a shit what people say about him, fucking amazing in those 4 years. Fucking amazing, man. And
Biden did a lot with a little.
He did so much with nothing. You know what I mean? I mean, goddamn, man. It's amazing what they got done. All the big stuff they got done.
That infrastructure.
That is historic, man. I mean, the stuff he got done, and people don't realize all the stuff that was in it because they did.
Actual COVID recovery.
Yeah, I mean, they did a lot with
deprivatizing the federal prisons. There was a lot of stuff that he did that I liked, but there's a lot of dumb shit that he did also.
Yeah, but
I didn't like.
But he didn't even necessarily do it all himself. He had to do compromises, do other things.
All by himself, he ate shit on the border.
Did he?
Yeah.
How?
What are the numbers?
Honestly, how? I want to know how. Everybody keeps saying that. How?
What did he do to address the crisis at the border?
What did he do that is different than Trump, other than, being cruel? What did he do worse than Trump the first time?
Okay, look, Trump, we all know that Trump doesn't do anything.
No, what I'm saying though is
he allowed it to be something that Trump could hit him with by not solving it, by not acknowledging it and then doing something about it.
What could he have done to solve it? We have hundreds of thousands of people who want to come to this country. Hundreds of thousands of political instability in the South. They all want to come here. They're requesting asylum. All right, go. How do you stop it without doing illegal things that Trump's doing? Without making it illegal to request asylum and just deporting them?
He could have done more things by executive order.
Like what? I mean, here's what he did with the executive order. He kept the COVID policies in place by executive order up until the Supreme Court had to say, dude, it's not a fucking emergency from COVID anymore. You can't keep using this COVID to keep people out. Because he was doing that with executive order. So what else could he have done?
Here's what he could have done. Here's what he should have done. In fact, like the really good deal that he made with the Republicans.
The infrastructure?
No, the immigration bill that Trump tanked.
Okay, yeah, that one, the one that they were all for.
He could have done that in the first 18 months of his presidency because they were throwing a fit about it.
Man, again, you got to think about priorities. Think about where they were at the time. Think about where we were at the time. When Biden got into office, what was the big deal? COVID. Everything shut down. Economy in limbo.
Dude, you were describing the problem for me. The problem is that they come in and they worry about the fire that is in front of them and not the fight that comes after it's put out.
Dude,
and that is the only job. This is why Republicans win, because they come in and they go, I don't give a fuck about what is shit right now. I'm worried about the fight that comes later. And they start fighting that fight immediately. That is what you have to do. You have to seize power in order to have power. If you can't walk and chew bubblegum, then Trump gets to win.
So in other words, what you're saying is Republicans don't give a shit about the problems. They care about their agenda. They fuck up the country so bad because they're not worrying about that. They're worrying about the fight to come in their head. And then everything goes to shit. And then the next party's in charge. And you're saying that party that comes in shouldn't try to address the actual needs of the people. They should worry about something else that they can envision being the next problem.
I'm saying they can't only do that. You gotta be able to walk and chew bubblegum. You gotta be ready for the next fight. You gotta assess your weaknesses and shore them up. You could have just watched Trump. They were hammering them on immigration for like 18 months before they fucking did anything about it. They were just like, there's no problem, everything's fine, it's not a big deal.
Honestly, though,
it's gonna be all right, folks.
Here's the thing. It doesn't really matter. They're gonna hammer them on anything because border crossings were down from Trump. What was so awful about Biden? If it was so awful, if what Biden was doing was so awful, then why were his border crossings down from Trump? Why were deportations under Biden up from Trump? He was doing more than Trump was. It doesn't really matter. They were going to blast him anyway. So, short of doing what Trump is doing, which says, nobody can request asylum, it's all illegal, every single person who crosses is a criminal, and we want to, just send them off to life in prison. I mean, come on, man. We got to have the law. If you want a law, immigration law, they did try to go that route. Then they were ready to beat Republicans over the head in the election. Like, hey, you guys are for this. This is your fucking bill. And by the way, it had to be a Republican bill because Republicans had the majority. So again, that's the party that's in that, that's the party that's in power in Congress. Democrats can want whatever kind of law, what kind of whatever kind of like bill they want, but it's still going to go to the majority, the party in the majority that gets to decide what bill is even going to be brought up for a vote. So really, what more could have Biden done? I don't know. I don't think he could have done much more.
Biden could have gone on Joe Rogan and said, hey, we made this great bill that's going to do all these things, and these Republicans won't even bring it up for a vote because they don't want it, because they don't actually want to help America.
I mean, yeah, Biden's old, and he wasn't thinking about podcasts, but fuck, man. That's reaching.
If you go...
That's reaching for what he could have done about the problem. He could have gone on Joe Rogan. I mean,
when Trump on Joe Rogan, okay, he got 300 million views across Spotify and YouTube. In order for Kamala Harris to get that from legacy media, she would have had to go on Fox News, CNN, NBC, ABC, 3 hours a day for 2 months to get the same reach.
But that's a different argument. The argument wasn't how did they run a campaign in the the last few months of the administration. It was what could he have done differently about the actual problem.
Dude, job number one of a politician is to win. If you don't win, then you're fucking useless. What good are you? You're a car that doesn't drive. You're a gun that doesn't shoot.
Okay, so...
You're an oven that doesn't cook shit. Like, you're worthless. If you don't win, it doesn't matter what you want to do. You don't get to do anything.
Okay, then you can't... Okay, so in other words, what you're saying is rule of law doesn't matter in this country. And it shouldn't matter in this country. And Trump should be allowed to do whatever the fuck he wants to, because it doesn't matter whether it's right or wrong or illegal. It just matters if you do something.
No.
No? Then what could have Biden done?
I just gave you a bunch of things that Biden
You're talking about Joe Rogan. Joe Rogan couldn't do. Passing a law. Couldn't do. He had to go to the Republicans. They're the ones who are the majority. I mean,
he can address it. He can go. He has the power of the bully pulpit. He can go to all the different press. He can go everywhere that people are putting their attention. He can be there because he's the president. Everyone wants to have him. Nobody's going to say no. No TV show. He'd go on Fox News. Did he go on Fox News?
Republicans were for the bill that they tanked themselves because Donald Trump's up their ass. It wouldn't have mattered if Joe Biden went on Joe Rogan and said, what everybody knew to be the case. Oh yeah, he's fucking Lindsey Graham in the back room right now, right in the back room there. Donald
You know
Trump's,
what he could have done?
his cock's
Done.
mouth.
He could have gone. He could have gone to Trump and created the Department of Trump's dumb bullshit and put him in charge of it and made him a part of the government and given him a fucking giant difficult mission to do. Okay, Trump, you know what? Join the government. Go solve the border. I'm announcing today on Twitter, I've invited Donald Trump to head up a new government agency that's going to solve the border crisis. It's called Trump Saves America. Come on down and figure it out, Trumpy.
By the way, president does not have the authority to create a government agency of any kind, just like Doge. Not a thing.
Okay, well, so did that stop Donald Trump from doing it?
That's what I'm saying. So so you're saying it shouldn't matter what the law is; they should just do stuff. You see what I'm saying?
I mean,
Donald Trump is not an example of. I don't think you really want to say, well, they just need to do it. They just need to do it. Well, Trump is doing that. He's on the right wing. He's doing what you said. He's just doing stuff. Doesn't matter how illegal it is. That's what we want. Because it only matters what you do or if you win. So in that case, I guess it doesn't matter. We maybe just get a Democrat in there and start killing everybody else. If they win.
I would be fine with that. Bro, like, I don't understand. If you don't win power, you can't wield power. It doesn't matter what your ideas are if you can't win the fight. If you don't win the fight, you're useless.
How you fight matters, though, to Democrats.
Why they lose?
Well, and then going back to the people who don't see a difference, right? That's on them. They get what they want.
I intentionally dislike the people who vote for the leopards that eat people's faces because they think that they don't have faces that leopards would eat. Like, I get it. It's very frustrating, but there's nothing to do for those people, bro. There's no way to save them. There's nothing you can do. You can't unring the Fox News bubble. You can't re-educate these 40-year-old Trumpers. You can't take the Christ out of all the Christians.
See, that's why I think this is why Democrats win every few years, right? And this is why they have to fix the problems. Because why you can't make them see their error of their ways, these 40, 50-year-old people, Fox News people watching things, going back to earlier about the price of eggs, when he says the price of eggs is down 95% and they realize the price of eggs keeps going up, right? Those people, a segment of those people will get tired of it and be like, I can't vote. I can't go this way again. I'm going to vote for the Democrat, right? Because they know. There's enough people who have to know. They may not say it publicly. They know. They know they fucked up. These people exist. I know these people exist.
There's a lot of people saying it publicly. I see YouTube videos all the time that's like, the Trump regret.
But there's the thing. So then when the Democrat comes in, they are coming in and they're always like, well, they shouldn't worry about the problems there. They just need to worry about the problem that will be there 8 years later. They have to focus on, how do you know what you don't know, man? How are you supposed to know that some other, before Trump, how would you have known that in 4 years, a psychopath is going to lead a mob on the Capitol to stay in power after losing an election? How dare those Democrats not know that he would try that? You know what I mean?
I'm not saying that they should have.
You know what I mean? But there's other things too. I mean,
the things I'm talking about are things that Republicans are talking about for so long. Republicans have been trying to kill Roe for 50 fucking years.
Well, yes, but here's the thing, though. They've been wishy-washy about it. Yes, they've been trying to do it. Every time they've actually had a majority where they could have done it, they didn't. Just like immigration. They love having the issue. They never really wanted to outlaw it outright. I mean, so there are some, there's a small 15, 20, 30% of the party, whatever, right? That was diehards. But the vast majority, no, we like having the issue, just like immigration. We like having it as an issue, but we don't actually want to do this because we know the majority of the country is against it, So if you had, remember George W. Bush, political capital? I have political capital. We just won an election. We have political capital. We're going to spend your political capital.
That's correct.
You only have so much political capital to spend. You only have so much political capital to spend when you first get in office. So What are you going to blow your wad on? Are you going to blow your wad on the big, massive economic crisis that brought you into power because it needs to be dealt with? Or are you going to try to do a whole bunch of things and piss everybody off? You really need to get this thing done. Biden had the COVID thing. We got to get the economy jump started again. We got to get COVID stuff happening. We got to do this stuff. We got to repair alliances. He did a fuck lot too. I mean, he did a lot of shit that people. I mean, It's hard to think about how much shit.
He did a
Obama
lot of
came in.
valuable things.
Obama came in, Great Recession, blah, blah,
His
blah.
FTC, Lena Khan at the FTC was just
I mean, he did a lot.
just banger after banger after banger.
So he did a lot.
You know what he didn't do? You know what, like, I feel like...
He can't do everything, though, man.
Here's the thing. This is going to have no defense for this, okay? The most crucial and simultaneously the most obvious thing. I'll give you one guess.
Male?
Prosecuting fucking Trump. In the first 6 months, he should have been in a fucking courtroom in 6 fucking months. He should have been in a fucking jail.
Merrick Garland. That was
Merrick Garland wasn't the fucking guy, was he? That's part of the problem.
There you go.
You should have got you should.
If I'm not mistaken, privately he said that was his biggest regret.
Like, you know the guy, you know, like how in the Billy Bush tape, you know, Donald Trump is talking about some guy's wife. You know, he's like, yeah, I know she was married, but I moved on her like a bitch. Biden should have hired that woman's fucking husband. Like, somebody who fucking hates Trump vehemently. That's who he should have hired. He should have been like, fuck this man's shit in. I don't want him to be able to fucking cough without you fucking slapping cuffs in his face. Fuck him up.
But yeah, there's a article from The Guardian. It's about 3-4 months old, right? But it said Biden reportedly regrets ending re-election campaign, and it says he would have defeated Trump. President also regrets picking Merrick Garland for Attorney General as he was too slow to prosecute Trump. I mean, he has his little regrets there. He's talking about it, but yeah, he said it. He said he fucked up choosing Merrick Garland. Great judge, too slow and whatever, and wishy-washy, and didn't want to look political, and yeah, that's
like. The thing is, it's like I'm not saying he had to do all of these things, right?
No.
But any of them. You know, if he had gone on podcasts, if he had said, hey, we're going to have a primary, I'm actually going to do what I said and be a transitional candidate. If he had said, you know what I mean? Like, if he had done any of these things, if he had said, hey, we need to handle stuff at the border. Trump has said the words border. Let's solve the border. Like, maybe I'm going to build a wall. Like, here's the thing that Democrats could do generally. They could take a page out of the Republicans' book, because what do the Republicans do? They say, we're going to do blah, 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 and then they do something else. The Democrats could say, we're going to do everything. Well, we're anti-trans. We're going to build the wall. We're going to deport all the immigrants. We're going to put the kids in the cages. Like, they could just talking point for talking point say they're going to do every single, done. Yeah, great idea. I agree with you 100%, Mitch McConnell. And then just do the fucking opposite. And who would know that they're doing the opposite? The Democrats who are smart and pay attention, because the fucking idiots aren't going to know. This is the thing that I'm talking about. Like, if the battle is for the hearts and minds of the fucking retarded, it's not that hard. Just fucking lie better. Just lie fucking better. If you have the smart people and they have the dumb people, then appeal to the dumb people and let the smart people figure out that you're actually doing shit that they want you to do. Like, this is not fucking rocket science, man.
Yeah.
Trump is able to do it masterfully. It cannot be rocket science. He is literally retarded. Mm-hmm. And it's not all of them. It's any of them. Okay. We're beating my favorite horse to death.
I know.
We're beating my favorite. Let's switch to any other news story. Let's talk about, here's, let me give you a choice between two. So we can do the whistleblower story at Doge, which I think is a great story.
Oh yeah,
or we can talk about like the Russia being incredibly unreasonable.
Russia's being very reasonable, honestly, for Russia's interests, for Putin's interests, if you're Vladimir Putin, it's great.
So the U.S. peace proposal put forward in Paris essentially is this. Not exactly, but essentially. No Ukraine in NATO. No foreign troops in Ukraine, peacekeeping or otherwise. No United States military support for Ukraine, which you would think would be covered under the foreign troops thing, but we have to specify that separately. We have to waive the sanctions, not just the U.S. sanctions, but all the sanctions from all the countries. We have to unfreeze the Russian assets, again, not just in the U.S., but also in Europe. We have to allow Russia to freely integrate all of the occupied territories
into Russia. They keep everything they got.
And, Ukraine has to stop producing and buying arms and give up all of their arms. They have to dismantle their military. They have to castrate their men. They have to make their women stop wearing panties and throw their pussies at every Russian they see and immediately suck their dick whenever they see them on the street. If they'll do all of that, then the war will be over. Except Putin was like, not good enough.
Yeah, not good enough. That doesn't address the root cause, which is the root cause is that we want to own Ukraine and everything else that we lost since the fall of the Soviet Union. But hey, today or yesterday, Donald Trump finally got tough with Vladimir Putin. After
Said,
the deadliest day of
I didn't
attack
approve.
on Ukraine,
You stop that
he
bombing
said,
Kyiv.
Vladimir, stop! That was it. That was a tweet.
There was another truth. I don't think a tweet, whatever. There was another tweet where he was like,
Honestly, man, at some point, it's like, dude,
there was another one though.
how can you pretend to be the tough guy at the same time you are going out of your way to show that you are his bitch, you know? Wow. It's kind of shocking.
I mean, I feel
It's
like
not
people
shocking.
see that. I feel like that's part of, like, I feel like he's debunking his own mythos, you know? Like, Trump the great businessman making all these deals. China's like, you're not making any deals. You know, $3 trillion worth of market value is just destroyed. Like,
3? Like 10.
No,
10
it went down and then it came back. I thought it was 3 trillion that was destroyed. And like the 7 was like it went down 3 and then came up 4. Okay, whatever. Some number of trillions of value destroyed. You know, 401ks going down, etc. You know, tanking the economy. You know, not solving anything with Russia. You know, not going after just the bad hombres, but going after grandma and kids and like, oh my god.
Oh my god, the Afghans that helped us. I'm sorry, I wanted to bring that up.
So we talked about this a little bit last week, but yeah.
Yeah, but the Afghans who helped our military are literally being rounded up and put and detained in customs, ICE detention centers. And they're doing it.
Killed. They're not going to get Abrego Garcia. They're going to get killed as soon as they go back.
The Taliban. We're going to give these people back to the Taliban, the people who helped us and everything else, the interpreters and everybody who helped our military people, you know. And some of them are Afghans who are like Afghan military people who were also abandoned by their government when the government split, you know, and they came with America. They were platoon leaders, and there's a woman platoon leader, you know, when some military. They're going to take these people and give them to the Taliban because they're brown, you know, and we don't want them here, so we're going to let them get beheaded and everything else and worse. And the way they're gathering these people up is because they have that CPB-1 app, you know, that makes sure everybody knows, hey, you're here legally, da-da-da, and, you know, they're using the app that these people who had a deal with our government, you know, and rounding up people who are here legally to revoke their status, to ship them back over to the Taliban just to do it. Oh, sorry.
No, yeah, it's horrible. I mean, that's on top of the, like, I don't know, what is it, like, I don't know how many thousands, but it's like tens of thousands to 20,000, 30,000 people that we left behind when we pulled out, you know, with Donald Trump's terrible pullout deal. I mean, shocking that Donald Trump is bad at pulling out. Who would have guessed that?
Yeah. Anyway,
remember, Trump did, you know, invite the leaders of the Taliban to Camp David to make this shitty deal where on 9/11, where I swear to God, like if you were writing it, you wouldn't write on 9/11. You'd be like, nah, that's too unrealistic. He wouldn't do it on 9/11. Come on.
Yeah.
Like truly the most ridiculous timeline in every way. But yeah, no, they're sending all the Afghans back after the deal that caused so many to be left.
Yeah, 14,000.
Yeah. Well, so there's God, I don't know what the right word for it is. There's like a policy or like a program in place to provide lawyers for like really small children, like babies, like 5 and under when they're, are you okay? I'll keep going. So there's a program for like when children are really young, I'm just mentally looking. I gotta stop looking at you and like focus. Yeah, this program allows these kids. I'm just gonna remark it and start over again. Hold on.
Yeah, we gotta wrap up in like 10 minutes so I can get him in a bath.
Okay.
He was coming in here. When are you gonna be done? When are you gonna be done?
Oh, okay. Here, another marker. Okay, and go again. So this program with the kids, where like basically babies get lawyers for free to represent them in court. So you're not just like standing in court. It's not like a literally like a baby that can't stand on its own or walk or talk or anything. Yeah, and the judge is like, are you fit to represent yourself? Do you have counsel? Were you offered counsel? Are you aware of your rights? And they're just like goo goo gaga wah. Mm-hmm. Like yeah. So like the Trump administration was like, let's not give them lawyers. That would be better. And then they gave them back to lawyers after taking them away, and the people were really pissed. And the judges were like, what in the fuck are you doing? And they give them back the lawyers, and now they're trying to take them away again. Because like they really don't want them to have lawyers. They want them to just like, well, I guess you couldn't defend yourself, baby. So I guess you're going to El Salvador. You didn't say Mexican, so off you go, baby.
Yeah, they're absolutely horrible.
But back to Ukraine, right? Yeah. So in addition to like this bullshit
they
deal,
give up everything. That's our plan.
Give up everything for nothing, right? The everything for nothing deal.
And they go, yeah, no, Not good enough.
And then
And
they
so
were
what does
like,
Trump do? So what does Trump do? Vladimir, or he says, Volodymyr Zelensky
Zelensky.
is being really difficult, way more difficult than these Russians who will say no to everything that we think they could possibly want. But Zelensky won't even recognize that they should just have Crimea. God damn it, Zelensky.
He's legally not allowed to give them
Why can't you be
Crimea.
as agreeable as Russia, who hasn't agreed to anything at all, and all we've done is say, well, how about this? Well, how about this? Well, how about this? What if I spread my cheeks a little bit wider? What if I bend down a little farther? What if I
What if I wear a perfume you
and
like?
then service you with, would that be good? No, that's not good enough either. Oh, man,
What if I bring Marco Rubio with me and we both
Exactly.
tag team you?
The thing is, all these things, if there was any chance of a negotiation, art of the deal, usually you'll hold on to all these things as, hey,
Everything has to be bargained for.
how about this? No NATO? No NATO, whatever. All sanctions dropped, all your stuff unfrozen.
How about even better? Like,
You have to give back everything you did and pay reparations and do this and XYZ. That's too much? Okay, well, what if we drop the reparations? Well, you don't want to pay reparations? Well, what if we increase the sanctions? What if we do this? What if we do... I mean, it's fine to offer up some things as part of a negotiation for a peace deal.
But you got to start with something.
But you don't just offer every single thing that you could use and leverage in exchange for nothing right off the bat. Our first offer is we give you everything that we think you could possibly want in exchange for you not going any further now for a while.
Like, just stop killing people, and you can have everything that you got, and you can try again in a few years if you want.
Exactly.
And like,
if that's your first offer, that's your first offer. Usually, in a negotiation, you start with one thing, and then, okay, you meet somewhere in the middle. If we're meeting all the way, our first thing is, here's what Russia wants, and here's what we're offering. Where's the middle? You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Like, here's a first offer, just like off the top of my head. Here's like a first offer, okay? You come in and you say, we're going to go to every country in NATO, and we're going to explain to them that we're going to put a 10,000% tariff on them next week unless they vote to have Ukraine in NATO by the end of the week. And then we're all coming to war with you.
That'd be one thing.
This is my first offer to you, Russia. This is my first offer. What would you like to counter? Do you have a counter offer?
Yeah.
You know, exactly. actually fucking negotiate from a position of strength.
Yep. Well, the thing is, though, it's kind of hard to negotiate from a position of strength if you are that person's bitch. If you are already that person's bitch, Trump is Vladimir Putin's bottom. So, I mean, I guess, what was that, power bottom? He could try to be a power bottom, you know?
That's what he's trying to do. He's trying to be a power. And he's like, stop it, Vladimir. Man, I gave you the power bottom.
But, God.
You've got to pretend to respect me in public.
Yes, I mean, I just think it's either so obvious that I don't see how anybody at this point could still think that somehow he's not Putin's bitch.
I don't understand what, honestly, like, aside from, like, accusing them of, like, what appears to be obvious and is very, like, obviously horrific, I don't understand what they want.
Who? Russia or?
Russia.
Russia wants it all. They want to control all of Ukraine.
Okay, but if they okay, let's say that's true, right? Let's assume that they want to control all of Ukraine. Here's what they could do. They could say, we'll take your deal of everything that we've already taken and no sanctions, etc. Like, we'll take your super sweet deal and we'll rebuild and we'll be back in 5 years and we'll do this all again.
Well, that's fine, but no, it doesn't really matter because Ukraine's not going to accept that. Trump can say it all he wants.
That's true.
So what difference does it make? Russia can all Russia's doing is playing lip service to Trump. Trump wants to keep saying, "Oh, we're gonna talk. Someone send Steve Witkoff over to suck you off again. Is that cool, Vladimir? Oh yeah."
I mean, if you watch, it's like, because I started watching Jake Bro. Like, if you watch him, you see how, like, you know, they
laugh at him. Laughing at Trump now.
Yeah, they laugh at him. They have no respect for him. They, like, talk mad shit about him constantly. About, like, the whole administration, like Rubio, Witkoff, Trump,
they're bitches.
All of them.
They're bitches, man. No offense to bitches, but they are little whiny pretend. I mean, it's all pretend. It's all pretend. They want to pretend to be a tough guy. They want to pretend to be whatever. They want to pretend to be a deal maker. You want to pretend to be powerful. Pretend to be the big bad America who can threaten everybody. And we can threaten Canada. We can threaten Greenland. Hey, look at that. Watch out, Russia, man. You never know what we'll do. We might turn on Canada. We're crazy. You know what I mean? But no one gives a shit anymore because they're feckless and they don't do shit and they back down on the tariffs thing. He's backing down and everything else he backs down. You know, I mean, he had kids in cages because they just want to be cruel. That's their thing. They want to be cruel and look like they're just out there being cruel and everything else. And then eventually public pressure went out there and they just backed down. They just kind of stopped doing that. They said they're going to do this, all the tariffs on everybody, and then he kind of backs down. And, I mean, they said, we'll get a peace deal on day one. Day one becomes 100 days. 100 days becomes by Easter. Okay, yeah. Well, I'm getting bored of this. I think the United States is going to have to walk away if Ukraine, if you won't accept something with this person who doesn't want to make a peace deal, I'm going to have to walk away. It's just smoke and mirrors. The whole thing is just smoke and mirrors, and what can they do for themselves? That's what
I think so as well.
Yeah, that's all.
Okay. Do you have time for more, or do we need to switch into end of show type things?
There's still a little bit more, but I mean,
Yeah,
honestly, I'm glad we don't want to talk about I don't really want to talk about the Democratic Party shakeup thing because honestly,
You don't like it?
well, I went to DNC chair. I mean, I get David Hogg, what he's wanting to do, but at the same time, he's DNC chair, and that's pretty fucking stupid if you expect to be the vice chair of the DNC, and you're like, I'm going to primary you people. I mean, yeah, he's how stupid,
I don't know. I kind of like it.
Well, I know, but either way.
I don't like these out of touch candidates either. Like, I'm real glad Dick Durbin is stepping down because I was furious with him. Despite his ardent and like top tier support of Ukraine, among a lot of other, I don't know everything he's done, but like he's my senator and he's done a lot of good things. He's done a lot of things that I agree with, but like he's also old. Like when I saw him in person, he was very low energy and very waffly and very like, oh well, we can't, we don't have the control of this, so we can't. All we can really do is just sort of wait it out until we get power later. I guess I don't know. I'm old. I'm gonna die soon. It doesn't really matter to me. Like. Like that's not the vibe. The vibe is revolution. Like unlike Elon would have you believe on the Tesla earnings call where he's talking about how their profits are down 71% year over year for the first quarter. They're only, instead of 1.4 billion last year, they made 409 million this year. And that's only because they made $400 million from like holding stocks and getting dividends and stuff on that, and 595 million from selling carbon credits.
But the funny thing I think about David Hogg though is when I say though, go fast on that other such things. He wants to do basically what you think the DNC did to Bernie. You want to have him from a position at the DNC funding people to take out candidates that the DNC doesn't like.
Look, I don't care if you are an assassin, so long as you kill my enemies.
Well, if you take out your own, you might elect some enemies.
If nothing ventured, nothing gained.
Anyway,
bro, we have no power. We're accomplishing no anything. So I don't care. You can't lose what you don't have. It's not we don't have the House, we don't have the Senate, we don't have the presidency.
Yeah,
we don't have the courts.
Say you primary somebody in a safe seat, right? And let's say you got rid of. Let's pretend for a second. Let's pretend
People
are so
mad at the Republicans. Is there a better time to do it?
Joe Manchin was still a Democrat and still there, right? And still staying not in power.
Well, that's not a safe seat, so it wouldn't be one of the ones.
Yeah, but he would be I'm sure David Hogg would say would be a ineffectual.
Right, but he's going after safe seats. He's not going after everybody. He wouldn't have gone after Joe Manchin. Everyone knows Joe Manchin is like a rare miracle candidate to win in the deep heart of red rage.
And is it only safe seats?
That's what I heard. I didn't run it down myself.
There's some places where you might think you have a safe seat, as I saw in Florida's special election, just last week before, right?
Mm-hmm.
You can have a seat where you think it's a safe seat, and it turns out it's not. And if you have a Democrat who's there from a safe seat, and you replace him with, say, somebody who's, let's just say, a self-avowed Democratic socialist, okay?
Mm-hmm.
And what you thought was a safe seat, and so you thought it wouldn't matter, and then all people are like, oh, I'm not voting for no fucking socialist. And then you lose what was a safe seat
Okay, but the same
Instead
people
of
who like
spending that
Trump
money,
like AOC and they
instead
like
of,
Bernie.
I'm saying instead of spending that money on against a Republican, it could backfire. I'm just saying, I can see,
Because
you know,
but here's the thing. Here's why this is not a bad strategy. This is the only strategy. Because the goal is not to have the same limp dick establishment Democrat, basically far right party. The goal is to empty the ranks of all of the establishment candidates and the corporate shills and put in populists and progressives and people who are actually going to vote for change, so that when the Democrats have some majority in the future, there is no Joe Manchin to say, I don't want to get rid of the filibuster. There is no Kristen Sinema to say, I'm not going to vote for raising the minimum wage, because everybody in there is on team fucking burn it down and rebuild it this way. That's the point. And and this is the thing that I'm talking about not just fighting the battle in front of you, but fighting the one ahead. Because like in your version, right? Like say like, we run Hakeem Jeffries for president. We're just picking another establishment candidate, and they're going to give us the same establishment bullshit, and people are going to be dissatisfied with it after another 4 years, and they're going to put in another radical Republican who's going to say that they're going to come in and burn it down again. Like the Democrats need to get that burn it down energy ready for the next time. Like right now, and this is the best time to do it also, because everybody's real mad at Trump and no one does good in the midterms. This is the best time to do it. This is the best time to swap them out. Like all the Democrats have this massive advantage in that they are not the Republicans who are in there doing dumb shit right now. Like that is the platform alone. Just from that base alone, you're hugely like into the atmosphere already. Then you add on some other like stuff that people like, or like you're a decent candidate, or you can speak well, you're attractive, you're smart, you can do good in a debate, you have, a policy idea or two, you look good in a suit, whatever it is, you have an interesting story, layer that on top, bam, that's a winner right there. It doesn't matter that there was some incumbent that was like doing business as usual.
yeah, well, I don't know.
You want to give people hope by offering them change, you have to offer them some actual change.
Then why are you only going to safe seats then?
Because you don't want to lose. Because again, the second principle is you cannot wield power if you do not have power.
I think the whole thing is just a little bit of I don't know. I just think it's a little weird. I think Ken Martin has the right approach. Dude, you want to do that? Cool. You do that. You go support people who want to do that. You can lead an effort to go primary people that you don't like and you think are in safe seats and blah, blah, blah. But don't represent the DNC. You can't represent the DNC as vice chair if that's what you want to do.
They're probably going to make him step down.
Yeah.
But like, here's the thing. Like, what's the point of being the vice chair of the DNC if you're not doing the thing that you want to do? He is wielding the power that he has. Like, this is exactly what we want. What I'm advocating for the Democrats to do. When you have power, wield it, whether it's popular or not. Like, that's what I'm voting for. I'm voting for someone who's going to do the thing. So when you get there and you have power, don't just sit there on your hands not doing the thing so you can maintain more power by trying to please everyone. Do the fucking thing. I don't care if it fails. I want you to do the fucking thing. And if it fails, I'm going to send you back because I saw the way you did the fucking thing, and I want you to go try again. It's big, fight for me energy.
I don't know. Either way, we'll see what happens. I don't know, man.
You got any predictions? Here's my prediction. My prediction is that David Hogg is going to be asked, forced, resign. He's gonna no longer be the vice chair, before the next election cycle.
I guarantee you that's gonna happen.
I'm just like, scraping off the bottom something that I think is pretty likely.
Yeah. Trump already said in the last couple of days that, that's 100%. I don't think it'll probably be much lower than that. It'll probably be much lower than that. So it'll be a number probably lower than that.
Oh yeah, we're gonna bend over for China.
We're gonna bend over.
None of those numbers from the tariff poster board are gonna come back at all. None of those numbers.
However, it doesn't matter. Because our dollar is still dropping like a fucking rock. We got concrete shoes because he is president.
Mm-hmm.
Now, hopefully, Gavin Newsom, California, they win their lawsuit against Trump. And
I don't know the details of that. Can you tell me a little bit about it?
Yeah, it's pretty easy. And it's very straightforward. 1, we are not at war with Venezuela. B, the president does not have the authority to use the Alien Enemies Act, or not, excuse me, that was a different one. He doesn't have the authority to unilaterally impose all these tariffs, right? That was a different thing. That was a different. The president doesn't have the authority to do the tariffs on this thing here, right? there is emergencies, right, that could be happening, but there is no emergency, right? So therefore, since there is no emergency, he doesn't have the authority to do the tariffs because everything is by an emergency. And for emergency, the tariffs are because of economic emergency. It defines what an emergency is. An emergency is not something that we've been dealing with for decades and decades, as Trump has said, is his reason for the emergency. The emergency is that it's business as usual, something that's been going on for 50 years. Sounds like that's not an emergency. So the main gist of the argument is there is no emergency. Since there's no emergency, he can't do these unilateral tariffs and just do it, even if there was an emergency. The president's not allowed to do this because he has to consult with Congress on this stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's not just 45%. 100%, 150%, 245%. Suck my dick while you're at it. No, that's not how the Emergency Act is, right? And it says, and basically they're saying, look, yeah, California has standing to do this because it is affected. It's like the fourth or fifth largest economy in the world. Like only China, the rest of the United States combined, and like one other country has a bigger economy than the state of California. And so all these tariffs and everything else is directly affecting their economy. So that's how they get standing. They'll clear the bar on standing to be able to get into court. And if they have to argue the merits about, is there an emergency? Can he use an emergency? What is the emergency? What's the basis for the emergency? And what did he do X, Y, and Z that he would have to do if there was an emergency? They kind of fail on a lot of those things. I think they might actually, the courts might be able to step in and say, yeah, actually, you don't have the authority to just say there's an emergency. Because if you did that, you could just say there's an emergency and declare martial law.
So, okay, but here's the counterpoint to that, right? Is then who does have the authority to say that there's an emergency? Would it be Congress?
Well,
because I bet you Congress is going to be like, oh, what do you know? There's an emergency. Like, wouldn't you know it? I'm going to bend over for Trump one more time. No one saw it. I bet you'll never guess what I'm going to do next. But it's surprise. I am going to just, continue just letting Trump be king and ceding all of my authority to him. Congress, that's exactly what Congress is going to do. So yes, I like where this is going. But now, if it is like there is some objective standard that has to be, it's not like Mike Johnson's opinion is that it's an emergency or Trump's opinion is that an emergency. It's like an emergency is a specific thing that means X, Y, and Z.
Here we go. Here's the other thing, though. Here we go. Yes, the president can declare a national emergency. The national emergency unlocks a menu of 100. This is from BritainCenter.org. It unlocks a menu of 150 statutory powers from which the president can do. Right. One of them is the International Emergency Economic Powers Act. Right? It can only be invoked when the national emergency stems from an unusual and extraordinary threat to national security, foreign policy, and the economy, right? And his premise for this is that we've been getting ripped off for decades, right? So that's that. But it says, does the International Emergency Economic Powers Act authorize tariffs? And here's what they said. They said, probably not. Even if there were a legitimate emergency, the president is limited to the powers that Congress has conferred. The International Emergency Economic Powers Act was passed to enable the president to impose sanctions on hostile foreign actors, like sanctions, right? It says it includes a long list of actions that the president may take, but tariffs is not on that list. And this is why no president has ever used the law to impose tariffs before, even when there's been other emergencies. So
okay, but how will Clarence Thomas confirm the unitary executive theory on this one? How will they? It's like a comic book, right? It's like, how will the Republicans squirm out of this bullshit lie? Tune in next week to find out.
Yeah. So here's the thing, though. They don't have to say. Here's the thing, though. The case is simple, right? They can say, hey, we can't say if it's an emergency or not. He ruled it's an economic emergency. But what they can say is the law as written enable him to unilaterally impose tariffs. That's all they have to do in the court. They can say, yes, unitary executive, he declared an emergency. Who are we to say there's not an emergency? That's fine. But if they declare an emergency, what does it say that you can do? Can you do that? You can declare an emergency. Cool. Let's say everybody in the Supreme Court says, wait, we're not going to say that the president can't declare an emergency. Whatever. Even if the reasoning is not an emergency, we're not taking this power away. You guys said the president can declare an emergency, and here's 150 things he can do. You guys gave him the authority to do that. Okay? But just because somebody declares an emergency, does he says, hey, I declared an economic emergency. Therefore, I am going to say we are going to set up death camps and we are going to rid our prisons of every single person in any jail and kill them and gas them because that will save us money. I think the Supreme Court would say no, though. Just because it's an emergency doesn't mean you can do that. So the court can rule whether or not a certain action you want to take under this emergency is legal or not.
I see. So they could let him have you can play with your toys, just not like this.
Exactly. You can play with your toys, you can call an emergency, you can play with your little army guys, and you can
pull out your calculator and you can abacus. You can throw your abacus beads at China with so much anger because you're so big.
Exactly, but you can't do this. Yeah, but you can't do this. You can't do X, Y, and Z. You know.
You're so big and strong. Some people are telling me that you're 6'4", 224 pounds, and
think about it this way,
ready to play in the NFL.
And let's think about just take yourself one step backwards too, right? These people in the Supreme Court, yeah, they're conservatives, right? But they're Republicans. They're more like most of them are like classic Republicans. They love the rich people. They want free markets. They want to do their stock trades and everything else. And they're old. They don't want their stock price dropping down. They don't want tariffs. It's very easy for them to say, hey, yeah, the president doesn't have authority to unilaterally declare tariffs. Done. Cool. I'm going to buy stock right before I issue this ruling. Because they probably would do that, too.
Especially Thomas.
Yeah. So I'm hopeful for that lawsuit going forward. Because really, he doesn't have the authority to tariffs single-handedly. Taxation without representation. Tariffs are tax.
Mm-hmm.
Taxation comes from the House.
Gosh, I hope so. I really want to be wrong. I want to be wrong and there not be a recession. I want to be wrong and there be no way out of the conflict between Ukraine and Russia. I want to be wrong.
I think
citizens go into foreign prisons.
Here's the thing, though. It doesn't matter how much of a bitch Trump is. Yeah, the United States is going to give up on Ukraine. We're going to stop giving them intelligence. We're going to stop giving them weapons. Trump is going to suck Putin off every chance he gets. He's going to blast his own intelligence people. He's going to have Tulsi Gabbard blasting our intelligence people and firing them if they don't say that Donald Trump and Vladimir Putin should rule the world together, right? But Ukraine's not going to lose. And I don't think Europe's going to let them lose. And Russia sucks so bad. Europe's stepping up. I don't think Russia can win. It'll be a long, nasty slog, and it really sucks for Ukraine really badly, but I don't think they're going to lose their country, even if they end up eventually, losing some territory, which seems likely. Like here, Finland fought off Russia, right? They lost some territory, but everybody kind of looked at them as like the winner because shit, man, you beat off Russia. Wow. You know what I mean? Similar to this, But I'm not even totally sold on the fact that Ukraine might not lose much anything. I mean, Russia can't keep up this war forever. What I'm more worried about is Russia and China, like China going into Taiwan, us selling out the Taiwanese. I'm hoping that Trump just caves on the tariffs and he doesn't try to hold up this tariff war with China in exchange for Taiwan.
I mean, there's no way to win this tariff war. The United States is 12% of China's. We buy 12% of their stuff.
Yeah.
Right. And they have enough of our bonds that they can tank the dollar.
Surprisingly, though, they have not been the one tanking the dollar.
I know.
Our friends are. Our allies, who Trump is alienating, are the ones dumping their treasury bonds.
I mean,
China's buying them up. China's the only country buying them up so they can really have leverage over us.
Look, the only thing worse than going to war without your allies is going to war against them.
Yeah. I mean, Trump's doing that. Yep. Anyway, wow, it is 8 o'clock.
Final
thoughts. I think that was final thoughts. I mean, I guess, in a way.
That's final thoughts. We did predictions. We didn't do what could go right. Do you want to quickly do a what could go right?
Trump could die.
That would be great.
And I guess and JD Vance can find a couch you just can't say no to.
I guess honestly, I don't want I don't want anything that is going to stop the Republicans from making a mess to happen. I want them to just really set everything on fire. I don't want it's almost the reason against the California thing. So what could go right? The California lawsuit could fail. The tariffs could continue. The dollar could tank. We could have a Great Depression, and it would be blamed on Trump. That's a what could go right. Because I promise you, if no one has a job, there's plenty of room in the streets for everyone to get out there and protest.
That's true, and you don't want to have everything go bad too quickly. you want it to be bad around election time.
Yeah.
So yeah, I get you.
Yeah. You know, the
What could
minimum
go right?
wage, the minimum wage had as a percentage of like the cost of a house, like the average salary as a percentage of the cost of a house was higher in the Great Depression than it is now. Yeah. It would probably be better for us all if there was a second Great Depression. Trump's Great Depression. Trumpression.
Well, we're heading there. We're at least heading toward recession, though. We're halfway there.
We'll workshop the name. All right. Good night. Good luck, and try to swear less than I do.
All right. Good night, everybody. Have a nice week. A YouTube short clip of the day would just be, in case you didn't know, the Trump administration put out the address of Kilmar Abrego Garcia's house.
No
said
way.
That's the house of a trafficker, and his wife and children had to flee their house.
Fucking disgusting.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
Horrible.
There you go.
Wow.